"Oh, Master, who deserved what and why is of no consequence. It is only killing a target and how it is done that matters."
As many of you may know, League of Legends was an experiment constructed by Nazi Germany in 1942 to torture unwilling prisoners of war into a deprived state of unconditional submission and fear. Many years later, a classified document containing all the necessary instructions on how to construct League of Legends was found in the rubble of a laboratory hidden deep within the cold heart of Siberia in 2008. The man who found that information was none other than Riot Game. And 14 years later since then, League of Legends has since grown from an inconceivable torture device into an ever-expanding Black Mirror nightmare that haunts our civilization to this day. What initially began development as a group of 40 violence-inducing champions has since grown into a legion of 155, many of which violate the Geneva Suggestion to death. Today, I'm going to go through all 155 champions and inform you which of these seemingly lovable characters are secretly, or blatantly, war criminals. Now, as always, a few disclaimers before we begin. Firstly, despite dozens of hours of searching through documents, I haven't found anything that makes a BDSM-clad spearman crashing onto the earth at Mach 7 illegal. This is for two reasons. One is that the American government is ran exclusively by old people, who doesn't understand what the American youth wants in their sex life. And secondly, it just hasn't happened yet. Despite this, I want to try and equate all these champion abilities into real-life terms as best as I possibly can. Secondly, when I judge a champion's legality, I want to be judging nearly exclusively through their abilities in-game, rather than a strictly lore perspective. Although if an ability is deemed illegal by being directly correlated in lore, I'll make sure to include that, and you'll see a good example of this in the first champion we cover, but this is mostly going to be an in-game analysis. I also won't be including items or summoner spells, because theoretically everybody would be a war criminal, and also no skins, because there's 20 billion of them. Lastly, any champions that aren't in this video just aren't war criminals. I know the average League player would probably have great joy knowing that they maimed somebody who legally should be executed, but there's no way to include them that doesn't prolong the video for no reason. Regardless, if there's a champion you main who you think should be illegal, feel free to comment below, and I'll try my best to respond to as many of you as I possibly can. But be warned that the reasoning is, more than likely, gonna be the fact that the US hasn't banned Sith Lightning, or freezing your enemies to death, or something that has literally no real-world equivalent. Without further ado, let's jump into the first champion, who is none other than a Mumu. Yeah, probably didn't expect that one, did ya? Specifically, his curse is what makes him a war criminal. It's applied on a Mumu's auto attack and ultimate, but the fact that it's refreshed by his W, and it prolongs a curse that brings upon death and ruin, would qualify it under a biological weapon. Annie is a child soldier. I don't really have a whole lot I can say here. Doesn't make her a war criminal, but it makes anybody who picks her one. Even outside of the confines of this video, if you main Annie, you're probably a criminal in one way or another. Aurelian's Soul is an incredibly niche case, and is something we won't see for the rest of the video. In-game, Aurelian doesn't do anything illegal, but I want to give you a hypothetical scenario real quick. Let's say you called Aurelian's Soul some gamer words online, and he decides, fuck you, I'm gonna auto-attack you to show supremacy. Whoopsie, that's genocide. Brand is our second incendiary character, but unlike Annie, I have to go a little bit further in depth. And I beg of you, don't take that quote out of context. Anyways, in this series, fire is always something that's incredibly difficult to talk about since there's so many varying laws. The weaponry, location, utilization, the country using them, and other varying factors all come into effect when discussing incendiary weaponry. Just like all other videos, I want to aim for a middle ground and include all fire spells that cause superfluous injury, unnecessary suffering, or a lingering effect. Brand falls under all three of these, with his passive lighting his targets ablaze for a fiery damage over time effect, and since his primary means of damaging you is through fire, that's also entirely prohibited. Fire bad, give up votes. Caitlyn strictly violates booby trap regulations, not because of the fact it's a bear trap, that's somehow not strictly illegal. Believe it or not, what actually makes it illegal is the cupcake in the middle. Food and drink are one of the many restrictions of what you can't design a trap around. Another good example would be Tibbers, since you can't design traps around children's toys, and Tibbers just fucking explodes and sets you on fire. We'll have a lot of examples of this in the future, but for the time being, all Kates are bastards. Get it? It's fucking cop joke. Laugh. Cassiopeia is a snake that poisons you, and that's about it. Here's the thing. Poison is one of the most strictly forbidden tactics in war. It's going to be illegal in any way you use it, whether it be a projectile enhanced by poison, a weapon laced with poison, food laced with poison, or anything in between. Basically every segment that includes poison is going to be really short, because there's not a whole lot of working around it. Cho'Gath's ultimate is a war crime because of cannibalism. Not strictly because cannibalism is illegal, in fact it technically isn't. In a lot of places, if somebody just gives you a piece of their arm and tells you to cook them, I would heavily suggest running, but it's not going to land you behind bars. The problem here is technicality is kind of thrown out the window when you just eat somebody, which is illegal because it's desecration of the dead, and what the actual fuck is wrong with you? Corky's Q is a phosphorus bomb, which is a really big hurty chemical weapon. I was originally going to make a Spec Ops The Line joke, then I realized that joke was already made on a subreddit post I found while researching this, and I know for a goddamn fact there are going to be people in the comments telling me I'm a fraud. I'm not a plagiarist, I'm just a fucking idiot. Dr. Mundo is up next for a rework, and I have a very sneaking suspicion that everything I'm going to say here will probably be outdated. So I will say one thing that Riot can't change about Dr. Mundo: he's from Zon. That's really all the reason you need, honestly. Echo is a teenager. No. Elisa's Q utilizes neurotoxins to damage your enemy, and your W is a venom-gorged spider that explodes viciously, which are both poisons and biohazards. But the worst sin of them all, she's a spider with humongous boobas. I really don't want any piece of media to persuade me that wanting to fuck a spider is a rational thing to do. On a very suspiciously similar note, Evelyn. Sexual violence is bad, and the United States military doesn't want the American youth to live out their fantasies of getting murder-fucked by a big-titty demon. I don't think I need to stay on this topic anymore. The last thing I want is my entire comment section being horny. Next. Fizz's ultimate, just like Cho'Gath, summons a shark from the abyssal depths to devour your foes. However, unlike Cho'Gath, Fizz has a very unique Easter egg to him. If your ultimate kills a champion with a small model size, such as most Yordles and children, their corpse is just entirely eaten. If I have to sit down with you and explain why feeding small children to a fucking shark is a morally unethical thing to do, get psychiatric help, I'm not going to be here for that. Gangplank's passive lights his sword on fire, which through the power of League of Legends logic, also sets your opponent on fire with your melee. Since this is a damage over time effect instead of a sheen-like effect, it's illegal. Jin's traps are illegal, but not for the reasons you might expect. The explosion is said to be of serrated petals, which would make it a prime example of weapons primarily injuring by non-detectable fragments. If your weapon utilizes fragments that you can't see under an X-ray, it's entirely prohibited. Kog'Maw is, thus far, probably the most illegal champion we've covered. Not only are all of his abilities biological because, well, it's fucking Kog'Maw, but he also uses poisonous, corrosive, and potentially chemical ammunition. This cute little Maw of Terror is actually a goddamn monster, and it's not like you could prosecute him for his crimes, since he'll just kill himself and everyone else in the room. 0 out of 10. F. Leblanc, that deceitful bitch, is a very good example of perfidy with her clone. If her clone dies, and the real Leblanc proceeds to LeBlanc you to death instantly, that's just a magical way of feigning death, which is an extreme breach in the laws of war. I couldn't find any particular lore that showcases what Lilia's passive really is, although it's a safe bet to assume that it's a biological weapon of sorts, since all of her abilities which apply it uses her seed sensor thing. Bioterrorist. Lisandra, just like Jin, is charged with non-detectable fragments. When a nearby enemy champion dies, They start slowly marching towards another enemy champion, and then shatter into ice shards to penetrate the champion. God damn it. Anyways, since this ability activates after an enemy's death, it'd also be illegal since you can't create explosives that are associated with dead or wounded people. Overall, just not really a great person to be around. Space AIDS. I don't really think I have to say anything else. Nico can very potentially be a war criminal exclusively because of her passive. Although there are about a bajillion different skins that Nico can turn into, a lot of them are also extremely illegal. For example, medical personnel need to have the benefit of neutrality on duty so they can collect, transport, and treat the wounded or dead. So let's say, hypothetically, Nerf Shen comes in the bot lane to, make sure the 0 and 18 Aftershock Yasuo is still breathing, then bam.
Whoopsie!
Who the actual fuck is driving a monster truck at 1 PM on a goddamn Tuesday? Alright, well after literally 20 minutes, my neighborhood is no longer being ravaged by a fucking armada of monster trucks. Anyways, Nunu is a child soldier, but it's legally questionable as to whether you, Willimp, or both you and Willimp are to blame for this. Rumble's ultimate is illegal because it's a line of fire munitions that apply a lingering burn and slow. I also just really hate Rumble. He was League's canonical simp far before Viego even stepped foot on the Rift. Pro Davey tip to all of you League players out there looking for your EGF, but if you want to try and win affection, the very last thing you should do is name something you ride on daily after them. I shouldn't have to tell you this. Also, I know I said earlier in this video I wouldn't be talking about lore, but fuck Seraphine. Me and my homies hate Seraphine. Everybody hates Seraphine. Shaco's E is really easy to explain because it's just a poisonous dagger, and poison is always bad. But the W is much more interesting. Being a landmine designed after a children's toy would make it strictly legal, but Shaco's ultimate is guilty too, since it not only counts as an act of perfidy, but it also sprays daggers and summons more Jack-in-the-Boxes upon death. Just don't trust clowns in anything, really. Shyvana's a dragon, but also not a dragon, but also a dragon, that breathes out agonizing flames that linger for a few seconds. If you haven't gotten the point by now, don't burn people. Singed is... Dude, what do you want me to say? It's fucking singed. Look at this, look at all of this. He tortured and twisted my boy Warwick into a fucking furry. To the infernal depths of you. Silas, through the power of mage communism, can steal any ultimate in the game, including all the ones I've talked about previously, and all the ones I'm going to talk about. The power's in your hands. Literally. Thumbs up for mage communism. Both Teemo's Q and E utilize Poison and Venom, which are both bad, give up votes, and his ultimate is illegal too, not just because poison bad, but also because mushrooms are a food. Obviously there are poison mushrooms out there you shouldn't eat, but you should at least be able to look at it closely or pick it without your flesh corroding off painfully. Teemo's a war criminal, and not only does Riot know that, but Teemo himself knows he is, which is honestly kind of based. There's no grand motive, there's no I'm doing this for science, he's just a cold-hearted masochistic killer, and honestly I can respect that. Twitch is a plague rat. Do you know what plagues are? Not very good. One of Urgot's abilities is illegal. Can you guess which one it is? I'll give you a few seconds. You guessed it right, his Q! 'Cause it's a corrosive and chemical charge. His ultimate, although terrifying, isn't strictly a war crime. Why? I don't know. If these videos have taught me anything, it's that the Geneva Convention is kind of stupid. Viego, by technicality, is the most illegal champion on this list. Why be one war criminal when you can be all of them? And unlike Silas, Viego gets access to 3 basic abilities instead of just the ultimate. Viego isn't just a war criminal, he's the war criminal. Vladimir's entire kit is just bioterrorism. His ultimate in particular is just a blood plague. Wait, no, I forgot Vladimir is a pretentious bastard. Chemo plague. Yeah, okay. Still bioterrorist, though. York blatantly disregards the treatment of the dead, and I initially thought his ghouls would be labeled under slavery, but quite a few quotes indicate that the souls act on their own. Then quite a few more say that they're in anguish. Then quite a few more say that they have positive emotions, and I can't really say for certain, but honestly you can't really prosecute York anyways. He wants to die and it's not like a few hundred years in jail is all too much for him. I'm gonna go ahead and give a judge's pardon on this one. Just give York a hug. He really needs it. And lastly, Zoe. I know I said I wouldn't include summoner spells on this list, but Zoe's the only champion in the game that can get Ignite without taking the summoner spell or unsealed spellbook. Also, I feel like it's vital to know that I don't care if Zoe is 20 bajillion years old. This is a kid. Until I get a fucking ID, as far as I'm concerned, Zoe is a kid. Oh, but Davey, she's actually No. Just stop. Please. And I believe that's it. That should be all the war crimes that are in League of Legends as of writing this video. If there are any champions you feel like should have been in the video but aren't, feel free to comment below, and I'll try to respond to as many as I possibly can. Also, if it's like 2024 and you're starting to comment below, but Davey, you didn't account for the Silas buff that steals your social security number and your ultimate. I didn't include that in the video because it's not out yet. I'm not a prophet. If I was, I'd probably be doing anything else with my life. If you liked the video, that's fantastic. I hope you enjoyed it. I really bet you were thinking I was going to tell you to subscribe or something, huh? Nah. I hate outros. Stay frosty, my friends.